Hello, good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a voice recording, a part of a segment of my videoing. I'm developing a process of actually recording my voice briefly as an intro to introduce the topics. I'll be introducing the topic overly. Good evening, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. I have been talking about the cost of living crisis for 1 year. I also said I will be continuing to talk about the cost of living going forward, but I also said I will be linking the cost of living with other elements of life. I have been talking about development. I will be talking about development and also culture. Development is the way we live in terms of material existence, and also culture is how we live with each other as human beings. And I have said repeatedly that if we combine development and culture, we will produce an equivalence of development or progress, which is actually stable, which is actually peaceful. The main problem, the cause of the cost of living crisis is because of we don't live peacefully. The government have failed because the government doesn't know how to look after people in Britain and across the globe. That is a cultural failure. It is impacting on development. When we create a lot of wealth in the country, we should also remember that we need to use our wealth to get the British people out of poverty, the European people out of poverty, the Americans, the Asian and Africans out of poverty. Everybody living in the world should get out of poverty. And thank you so much for everyone who has been part of this program. And thank you also YouTube for the opportunity. And those who have been watching the videos, clicking notification bell, and sharing, and liking, sharing with family and friends, and also with whoever would be interested to watch. I have said in the past, and I have been saying it again, that when we have problems, it is our responsibility to solve problems. Even if we are children, it is our duty to act responsibly. We can sit back and blame the government for everything, but we can also blame the government and blame ourselves and do nothing. The best thing for us to do is to actually learn to take action, to understand what is happening around us, in our homes, in our communities, in our societies. We need to know what the government is doing. We have to know the policy and the politics happening in the country. We need to know how the media operate, how policy are produced. This is what I've been saying it again and again. It is our responsibility. And if there is something wrong going on in your life, if there is something wrong going on in the life of the people you live with, your friends, your family, members of your communities, or even the government, you think the government is doing something wrong, then it is actually an opportunity for you to understand how to change the way you live your life, to use every element of society, to use every resource available, money or material, information, or even good relationship or bad relationship. Everything within culture, within development, what we know to be progress, we need to use everything we have to our advantage. It is our responsibility. And if we do the right thing, if you're a young person, and if you're an elderly person, you're a man or woman, black or white, rich or poor, we together have a big responsibility to run our lives and also to run our society. We are to solve problems. We have to have respect for our lives, to respect other people. And this is the essence of what I have been talking about. This is an opportunity created by the cost of living crisis. Problems and challenges create opportunities. There may be threats, but there are always opportunities. There may be other challenges, but there are always a chance to do something new. We are prompted to use our brains to think and also to focus, to concentrate when there is crisis. And it makes us better people. I live in hope for humanity. I live in hope for everything we stand for as human beings. And this is why I have been talking about the cost of living and linking the cost of living, taking the opportunity to discuss the wider issue of society. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed before, subscribe to my channel. And we will continue to talk about different things. There are so much to do. And one step at a time. And share this material with family and friends. And do your best. Leave a comment below. Join the conversation. And let us talk about our lives. Because our lives is in our hands. The government is helping. In the United Kingdom where I live, the government is also helping in other parts of the world. But we are increasingly being encouraged by the government to help ourselves. And that's why if you now try to look for public housing, it is challenging. And I have said to the British government and to the government of the rest of the world that there is enough wealth in the world to get everybody in Europe, in America, in Asia, in Africa, to get everyone out of poverty. And this is a possibility. Britain is a big country, can take a leading role, can play a leading role to talk with fellow Europeans and Americans, to talk with Asians, to pay attention to humanity. The issue of poverty creating the cost of living crisis is a problem of failure of policy which should change in favor of the majority of the population of the world who are, because of the system of capitalism, have been excluded from the wealth of the nations. This is unacceptable because people are to be looked after by the government. The government actually promised to look after the country, to run the country, to use the law of the land, to produce justice, but also to pay attention to culture, education, especially cultural education, where people respect one another. They respect other people, they respect themselves. They respect the property of their own property and property of other people. This is the essence. This is the basic building block of respect. Because there is lack of respect, you find wars in Ukraine. Russia is fighting Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting Russia now. Because they do not respect each other. Culturally, they are failed. Britain is involved around the world, fighting in the Middle East, in Asia. Israel is fighting Hamas. In Africa, big countries, nation states are fighting one another. It's cultural failure. This should actually change through education. In the long term, in the short term, we need to use every resources we have, including security, law, and policy. And also, we need to start talking about what matters, what we value. And our value system in terms of wealth and other factors of society should revolve around humanity. I have been saying this and I will be saying it again and again. I'm so delighted I've been saying it. Continue watching and bear with and keep on watching and join me in this process. And thank you so much, and continue watching. So, as always, we continue this dialogue, and thank you so much for your support and for your participation as always. And let us continue to talk about the cost of living crisis. And as I have said at the introduction, the cost of living is not really an accident. It is actually a policy issue. It is also a societal issue of politics, of government, of society, and but also of culture. I will be repeating this point again. Thank you so much. And today I will be looking at how the UK government try to help the British people. I have discussed this with you before, and continue watching the rest of the video alongside this video. I'll leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I will be changing slightly going forward the way I do videoing, the way I do presentation, but I will be focusing on the cost of living crisis. And the cost of living crisis, leave a comment below. And if you need to know what I'm talking about, especially about the support in the United Kingdom, we are going back to where we began, and continue watching. Thank you. So if you live in the UK, there is actually a type of financial support given to the British people, which I have actually introduced elsewhere. It's called universal credit. It's a benefit. A benefit actually is a form of income. It provides income for the British people, and another source of income is actually employment and self-employment. If you work for a living, if you do self-employment, and also running a small business, small and medium business, then you get an income. It is an equivalence of income you find when you are actually getting benefit. Benefit is money. It can also be non-monetary or something similar. I have discussed this already, and I will be repeating it just to, in case there are people who didn't watch it. And if you really watch it again, and be happy that I'm repeating this, and let's carry on doing this. So like I said, watch this video and the rest of the video. And like most things, if you are looking for benefit when you're living in the United Kingdom, you are actually to claim it. Like in most things in life, you claim something if you're entitled to. So you check if you're entitled to something like benefit. Benefit, like I said, is money, because you know you may, if you live in the UK, this is actually is something you already know. But if you live away from the United Kingdom, it's something you may not know. Is universal credit is money. It's new, and you can compare it with the legacy type of benefit. So you claim benefit. You claim the money from the government in the United Kingdom. And what happened in the United Kingdom happens in Europe. It also happened in America. It happened in Africa. But in Africa, the system may be different from what is happening in the United Kingdom. So learn what is happening in the United Kingdom. When I said, as I said in the introduction, I said if you have a problem, solve it. Even if you are a child. If you see babies, small babies, if they are hungry, if they are starving, they cry. They understand that if you have a problem, you should solve it with using the resources you have. So the resources you have is what actually you use. There are a lot of people who think only adults should solve problems. Children and young people should also participate in solving problems. If you are still alive, even if you are an elderly, do what you can, play your part. So when I talk of money, it is for children, for adults, grown adults, but also for pensioners, those who are actually of pensionable age. If you're of pensionable age, you get pension. You can get state pension, work pension, or occupational pension, different types. But the main ones I'm talking about. And on something also called pension credit. Pension credit is means tested. I've already said means tested is the means you have. If you have money, if you have 6,000 for pension purposes, if you have £10,000 in savings, then you can still get pension credit. But because it's means tested, if you have more money coming in, maybe somebody is giving you money, or you're getting pension payments or some other income from some other sources, which I've actually explained, I will continue to explain, then you may not actually get pension credit. Pension credit is similar to universal credit. The age may be different. The age of universal credit is when you working age. But when you are not a child, if you are 16 years or 17 years old, you are still a child, but you might still get universal credit. Because probably you are no longer studying full-time. If you're studying full-time, you can get child benefit. A child benefit is not non-means tested. Because even if you have money, even if your parents have money, you still get child benefit. And if you want to know more information on these situations, on the benefit, on universal credit, child benefit, whatever I'm talking about, go to the government website, go to Citizen Advice website. Also, watch this video and the rest of the video, because it is continuing from where we left. If you are claiming benefit, there are rules to claim benefit. Sometimes you get benefit sanctions. Benefit sanction means you are punished. And punishment means sometimes they stop your benefit. It may also mean they reduce it. And if this happens, then get help from Citizen Advice in the United Kingdom. I've already talked about Citizen Advice. Go online and Google Citizen Advice Shelter, gov.uk, which is a government website in the UK. If you get this information is important even if you don't live in the United Kingdom, because what happened in the UK happens elsewhere is similar because of globalization and capitalism. All the systems are actually similar. So you can get sanctioned. You can be punished when you are claiming benefit. You can get sanctioned even if you are not claiming universal credit. You can get sanctioned when you are claiming, for example, job seekers allowance, which universal credit has actually replaced. And I've mentioned this before, so you can look at other videos to connect with this. And so if you are getting other benefits before you began to get universal credit and you got sanctioned from there, and if the sanction has ended with the other benefits, say for example you are getting universal credit and you are sanctioned, actually you are sanctioned with job seekers allowance, and it has ended with job seekers allowance, it will not affect when you when you come onto universal credit. The previous sanction doesn't affect universal credit because it will have ended with the other benefit. Equally, sometimes when you are claiming universal credit, your circumstances may change. And when your circumstance changes, you report your circumstance. Maybe you find work. Because people who get universal credit normally don't work. Sometimes you work and probably you don't earn enough, you get universal credit. There are different elements. I've already talked about that. I will talk about it going forward. I will repeat some of the points. So if your situation changes and you have an account with universal credit, which is a benefit, as I said, you need to create an account. I already mentioned that in the other videos. You create an account when you are actually claiming universal credit, and your account will save for 6 months. even if it is dormant, even if you stop getting universal credit. Because you stop getting universal credit, and maybe you're working or something else, and also your sanction may have ended when you are no longer on universal credit. Maybe you're doing something else, maybe you're working, or maybe you got some money, somebody gave you some money, and you stop getting universal credit because every time your circumstances change. If you get some money, maybe somebody gave you some money, your uncle, your auntie gave you some, maybe 10,000, 50,000 pounds, if you're lucky enough. Then you report that to universal credit, to the government, Department of Work and Pension, which is a government department. You report that, and then when you report that, your benefit stops. And if you are sanctioned, your sanction also stops. Now, when you deplete your savings or your circumstances change again, which affect your income level, you come back to claim universal credit. When you return to claiming your universal credit, when your sanction hasn't stopped, it will affect your payment. Because it hasn't ended. When you left universal credit, you went away, and you came back because your circumstances changed, and the sanction hasn't actually ended, because the sanction will carry on even if you are not on benefit. If you find work, the Department of Work and Pension will take benefit, will take your debt. Sanction is a form of debt, because maybe you are in a situation and you got a sanction. You did something wrong. You broke the rule of benefit and you are sanctioned. So you leave benefit because you found work. And then the Department of Work, because you have to report the change of circumstances. Change of circumstance, as I said, is when, for example, you find work. That is change of circumstance, because it affects your income. As it affects your income, you now have more money than the government says you should have. And then you leave universal credit. Leaving universal credit, you go on to work, the Department of Work will follow you to get their money back from I mean, because when it doesn't end, it means I'm actually trying to explain something slightly differently. The benefit sanction is when your benefit is reduced, but it can be for 3 months, it can be for 6 months. And if you leave benefit if your sanction is for 6 months or for 3 months and you only went away for 2 months, then you still have 1 month left and it hasn't ended. You come back to claim universal credit. For 1 month, you will be losing benefit because it will be reduced. When you come back to claiming universal credit, the sanction will be affecting you for a month because it hasn't ended. If it has ended, because you stayed for 3 months or 6 months or 5 months, then when you come back, it won't affect your new claim, your new level of benefit as you come back to claim universal credit. Because the nature of universal credit is that when you need it, you can claim it. And your needing it is related to entitlement. Entitlement relates to your level of income. That's what we call means testing. The level of your investment, the level of your saving, the level of your saving or investment has to be for universal credit. It has to be at least 16,000. If you have a saving of 16,000, you will not get universal credit. 16,000 or more. But if you have less than 16,000, even for only for a pound, maybe you have 5,090, 5,900 pounds, you will get universal credit for 100 pounds. That's how it works. So the value of this information is that if you have 16,000 pounds and you don't work, don't wait until your saving or investment is depleted. Claim benefit. Because the benefit you claim will begin to help you with things like the cost of housing, the cost of council tax, the cost of other debts. If you get into debt with the energy company or water company, if you're on benefit, even if you only get £5 or £10, you normally pay, universal credit is paid every month. It may not be much, but it can help you to get other things. If you're getting help with housing, universal credit housing element, if you're in rent arrears, you can get grant to pay of your rent arrears from the council. But if you don't get benefit, generally, the rules are not very clear, but generally, if you're not on benefit, then most likely you're not going to get grant from water company or from, that is how, because the rules are never straightforward, because these benefits are actually discretionary. Because you're paying for, if you live in a house in the United Kingdom, you pay rent. You also pay rent, council tax. You pay bills, such as water and electricity. So if you're in debt with the energy company can help you because the government has given them money, or perhaps they have agreed, they have a contract with the government to pay you grant to clear of any debts. And one of the things they look for is whether you are on low income, and the evidence on low income is normally benefit. So if you have universal credit, if you're getting £100, you have a case with the council tax arrears, rent arrears, debt with the energy company, debt with the water company. In practice, you need a lot more help to get this, to access this help from citizen advice in the United Kingdom. From government agencies like the local authorities, and also other non-statutory organizations like Shelter. These organizations specializes in one thing or another, but broadly, because if you are on low income, the information you will always link up to benefit one way or the other. Your case will always, one way or the other, will be to dealing with, if you're in debt because you're on low income. If you're not on benefit, then you're going to get help with debt advice in the normal way, because you will be working and you'll be earning maybe 8,900. Between 800, 1,000, around there. Normally, as a single person, as a single claimant, you don't get universal credit because your level of earning is a bit too high. But if you have extra costs, such as you have a higher level of maybe rent, or you are struggling with council tax, if you get housing element, then probably you will get other help. It's a bit complicated. I have already actually mentioned the complication with benefit system. I'm trying to mention it so that you get an idea how sometimes this thing gets really complex. And that's why sometimes it's important to get this help anyway, even if it is, for example, if you're sick. Some people wonder if they should get it. I mean, try your best to get help anyway. I mean, especially if you are working for an agency and you're working for an agency, also check your employment state, your immigration status, because sometimes you may not have recourse to public fund. About this discussion, I want to repeat it because, you know, in the nature of this process, some people may not have watched the other video, they may not find it easily. So every time I have to give an overview. Sometimes it takes longer than I intend. But bear with me, and thank you so much for watching this material and share with family and friends. And contact the authorities to get formal advice, because this is not a piece of advice. This is actually the reason I'm actually doing this exercise, to illustrate the idea of the cost of living crisis, because the cost of living crisis is income related. So if people were not poor in the United Kingdom, around the world, there would not be a crisis known as the cost of living crisis. That's why rich people don't suffer from the crisis. They suffer the cost of living, but they don't suffer from the crisis where they cannot access housing. They struggle to access food and energy. They struggle to access healthcare and public transport, because everything is expensive. So you find that people who generally work for a living, people who are not multimillionaires or multi-billionaires, are the ones who suffer the cost of living crisis. And this is real. It's a reality. The government knows it. If you go to gov.uk, you find the evidence there. The government has acknowledged. If you go to the media, you listen to the radio, watch television, watch social media, the cost of living crisis is related to income. That's why I said, if the government could raise the level of income significantly up to a certain threshold, the cost of living crisis would not exist. And also to support debt advisors and other people who actually support families with information, with advice, because sometimes debt is a result of mental illness, depression. People are not really fit to manage their income because of mental illness, sometimes because of prolonged physical illness. People actually, these things are connected. So social policy in the UK is intended to bring this element together so as to help different people to access different type of help. It's a complex system, but it is established. There are resources. If the government actually change the policy, the difficulty with public service and also social services in the UK is because of privatization. And the government is selling off everything because of ideology, because of false belief that the private sector is good, the public sector is not good. You see, the private sector is connected to capitalism. The public sector is connected to helping people who cannot compete in the market. Now, if you leave the rest of the country to the devices of the market, multi-billionaires, big corporations like big banks, big supermarket. I mean, if you go to supermarket to try and ask for food, for help, unless you go to the food bank, unless you go to energy bank, which is the type of help available in the community, and also with food bank, and I think also energy bank. I'm not sure about. You can check that with public. If you visit Citizen Advice, look at the public website or visit any of the organizations. There are so many organizations. Some of them are bigger than others. You will always find help. And if you're a foreign student, the information I have is that you can get food from food bank. And sometimes if you're a foreign student, with the cost of living crisis and the cost of foreign learning in the UK is extremely important. Expensive. Housing prices are going up, and transport is going up. Medicine, I think you use medical insurance. I'm not sure if you're a student, foreign student. And also, if you have no recourse to public funding, you come as a tourist, you have to have all these arrangements in place. You cannot access anything to do with public service. This is the changes the government has made to control immigration. Especially, I mean, if you are a poor person in the modern world, nobody wants you, including the British government. Let's face it, it's the fact. Even poor people are not interested in poor people because they represent problem. We live in a world where we prefer luxury more than solving problem. But the reality is that human life is at stake. And the majority of the population of the world are actually poor. They may not know they are poor because of the way they perceive poverty, because the way the poverty is defined. Because you see, if you work for a living and you lose your job and you cannot actually pay for the basic necessity for 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 years, then count yourself. Even if experts say something else, know that you are a poor person. If you have to borrow money to buy your home, know that you are a poor person. And universal credit doesn't pay your rent, your mortgage. If you live in the UK, you know mortgage. Mortgage is actually from creditors, from the mortgage company. They are there, they're a form of credit to buy a property. It's a system in America where now the private companies are now intervening to provide housing. Because housing should be provided by the government. Because you see, there's a difference between housing and mere property. Property are perhaps housing for super multimillionaires. They have the cash, they have the money, they can buy if they want, but they can also borrow if they want. Increasingly now, if you don't work, if you work up to a level, if you are actually an elderly person, you're not going to get mortgage. That means you're going to be homeless. Because if the government shuts down completely the way it is doing now, because you see, the Conservative Party in the UK, David Cameron, who is now Foreign Secretary, is in the House of Lords, Lord Cameron, when he was campaigning to stand to be Prime Minister, he said the Conservative Party is actually reducing the size of the government. And the British people like that because they associate the government with oppression, with taxation, with, you know, if the government leaves us alone to run our life, we are free. But you see, freedom comes with responsibility. And David Cameron, explaining the manifesto of the Conservative Party, said, we are giving your country back, your schools, your hospitals, which is actually an agenda, which is probably a good idea. Because you see, nobody wants to depend on the government. We want to be free. We want to have our lands, to grow our own food, to produce. I mean, every family and friend of the world want to be an expert. We want to be a medical doctors. We want to be engineers. We want to be computer experts. We want to be pilots. We want to be able to build our own cars, our own vehicles in the villages. I mean, with technology, we need to access technology as individuals, as family, as communities. That is how the government can shut down, which is the argument for freedom, argument for small government, you know, the promotion of the market system. So that people as individuals are free. This is the basis of the idea of freedom, of democracy, which is what we want in this country and across the globe. We need to prepare for that. But we cannot just go from depending on the government and overnight there is radical changes. This is why there's the cost of living crisis, because of, you know, sudden changes within the public sector, within the benefit, within the welfare system. I have been explaining this. Going forward, I'm so happy that you have been with me. You have been watching. We are a small channel, but you know, with time, with patience, things will get better. We will grow bigger. My aim, my passion is to reach as many people as possible, and also to improve the way this process is delivered, and how it is the production, the equipment, the editing is still a nightmare. And there are so many rules within YouTube, and I have to be careful what I put there and what I don't put there. And if there is something, even if I know I shouldn't put it there, sometimes I just risk putting it because I don't have the equipment. Even if I have equipment, I have to learn how to do, because I have to do this thing. It is something I've chosen to do. It's an opportunity, and I'm excited to do that. Continue watching, and we are talking about benefit. We are talking about universal credit, and as I promised, I will stop from time to time to put logic into what I'm trying to do, because sometimes say, you can ask me, why are you explaining about benefit? Because benefit is an income, and we live in a modern economy. If we don't work, if we are sick, we can literally die. So if I talk about benefit, you are working, you could also get help, but you could lose your job. I don't want that to happen to anyone. But you see, the reality is that there is technology. There is technology now taking over, running the economy. That means going forward, more and more people are going to lose their jobs. So people should now start thinking how to use technology to access employment, self-employment especially. You have to create your own job to survive. And if the government is no longer there, which in about 100 years you will not see the government at all, you will be the government as an individual. You have to start thinking of how to grow food, because food is a necessity. Energy is a necessity. Housing is a necessity. And healthcare. Every little thing, you need to be an expert in this. If you work together as friends, as family, you help one another, you're going to be strong. You're going to be, this is about survival. You see, everybody is now, you see, society we live in have always been a jungle. You see, the market system is a jungle. The law of rating actually operates the law of the jungle, because it is good for us all and everyone for himself. I think we can actually find a balance where we are individual, but we work with one another, because if we work with one another, we are stronger. We live longer. This is about survival. The cost of living is a sign that we need to change the way we think as survivors. Survival is extremely important, and I appreciate you actually being engaged. As I said, we are small, and it is my responsibility to make sure this channel grow, and it will grow, because I have seen changes. Because when I created this channel in 2012, and I did not do anything, the channel stayed where it was. I started working, creating videos, content, and posting it in 2022 in December. As soon as I did that, people began to phone me, thanking me, and encouraging me to continue doing what I am doing. That's why I'm doing, because the encouragement you have given for me. People started subscribing, and we are still small. We need to grow. The bigger, the better. The more, the merrier. And I am so grateful that you came, because the traffic on the internet, social media is the same. So fast, the pace is so fast. So that's why I need to post video every day as much as I can. And you're invited to watch as much as you can. And I'm laboring to explain to you the logic the logic of this topic, why I'm discussing how the benefit system works in the United Kingdom. And because it involves the law and it involves the policy. It's a bit complex, but every day I do it, and because you see, the success of this process is if I can explain something very complicated in a way which you can understand, and also why. You see the value of doing this exercise because of income. It is a form of income if you live in the UK. There are a lot of people who do not know where help is. And if you get whatever help, even if it's only £10, £20, £50, get it. And as British people, we are extremely poor. I mean, we are very proud people. We don't need an out. And my proposition is that sometimes you have to take a step back to go forward. If you are stuck, if a crisis happens to you, like the cost of living crisis, if you become sick, I know that is a crisis. Nobody wants to be sick. Nobody wants, you lose a loved one and you are depressed. You are so, you feel like giving up because somebody died. Maybe somebody left you, a child maybe left home, and you are left alone, and you're so lonely, you're so depressed. You talk to other people. I talk to the camera with you in mind, the viewers. I also visit places and talk to people, and it makes me feel good. And because we are humans, we are actually created to be friends. We are created to be family. And work is very important. What I'm doing here is work. I may not be paid for, but it is work. It is valuable information, guidance. The thing to encourage me, even to put logic, even to put value in exercise, what I'm doing. A lot of people actually phone me and say, what the information you're giving is really helpful. And this is encouraging. It motivates me. It actually encourages me to do more research, to look at this material and bring them together and explain it to you, the audience, and also, think of other things which we need to do because we work, we play, we visit our family and friends. We look after people who cannot look after themselves, children, grandparents, disabled people. We visit people in the hospital. This is a community spirit. This is a human thing to do. It's to do with our culture. It's to do with how we value, how we respect ourselves, how we respect nature, how we respect society, how we respect the government, how we respect the law, how we respect the authorities like the police, prison officers, fire service, ambulance service, the emergency. All these things are actually rooted in our cultural instincts, our cultural capacitation, our cultural learning, and it's a recipe for success. Even in the face of complexity, such that we see with the system, because the system is developing, such that we now are trying to access artificial intelligence to help us run society, because the system is so complex, it's almost too complex for us humans to run it. We created it because somehow, somewhere along the line of progress, we decided to rely more on systems other than on human solutions to problems. Sometimes sitting and talking to one another will actually prevent depression. It may even actually prevent a physical problem or disability or pain from getting worse or even killing somebody. I mean, if you talk to one another, if you actually live with one another other than living alone, you get energies. You actually get life from other people. You give life, you get life. And this is actually cultural situation which we have neglected as people in terms of progress. This is actually at the heart of my channel. I'm using the cost of living crisis to illustrate this thinking, this truth. And I'm so excited to have done, and I'll continue to do it again, continue watching as I continue to explain about universal credit. We are actually about to finish because I don't want the video to be too long. I'll continue watching. Thank you. So let us continue watching this material. As I said before, universal credit, which is actually money given to the British people to support their income. If you don't work for a living, and if you work for a living, sometimes if you earn less money, because sometimes people are confused that if you're working, you don't get benefit. You can work and get benefit. You can have savings and get benefit. I will explain this. I will continue to explain it going forward. And I am talking about sanction. Sanction is a form of punishment. You get punished because you have done something wrong, and there are actually rules governing universal credit. There are also rules governing your claim and your behavior when you are claiming a benefit. These are actually government policy. So this behavior, if you misbehave, if you break one of the rules, your benefit can be reduced. That is what the meaning of sanction. Your benefit can be reduced. Your benefit can be stopped, which means your only source of livelihood will not be there. And you're going to be in serious trouble. You can be evicted from your home just because you see, universal credit pay your rent. It pays your council tax. You can also go to prison because of sanction. These are some of the things I've been telling viewers to go and talk to your member of parliament in the United Kingdom that benefit sanction should be removed. And because it is not necessary, it is a very bad policy. And I don't know whose idea it was, because you see, it is so complicated. You can do something really minor, and your benefit will stop. Your benefit is stopped, you can actually go to prison because you can't pay your council tax. You see, the benefit is paying your council tax. If you get universal credit, you can claim council tax support. And another thing I say, that the government, the UK government, should not charge people who are on benefit to pay council tax. It is wrong, in my opinion. It's extremely wrong. Leave a comment below if you think that is right, because somebody's already on benefit if they don't work. Why should they pay council tax? It doesn't make sense. This policy should be stopped. If you don't work, you should not pay. If you are on minimum wage, national minimum wage, if you are on national living wage, you shouldn't pay council tax. The government should find money from somewhere else. And the government should speak to people who are multimillionaires and multi-billionaires to give some money to the government to help people who are actually very poor. People who are on national minimum wage. They work 3 to 4 jobs. And they can barely afford to pay their bills because, level of pay is so low, and the cost, especially now with the cost of living crisis. This is what I've been trying to say. If you live in the United Kingdom and do a bit of research, look at the idea about somebody who is working for a living, who is on low income, who is on national minimum wage, somebody who is on or national living wage, whatever you want to describe it. If this is happening to you, know that you're in serious trouble, because if you lose your job, you have to go to claim benefit. And also, if the Department of Work and Pensions think you did something wrong from work, they may refuse to pay you benefit, because they will say you intentionally made yourself unemployed. These policies should also change. They should be scrapped. The government should not put that policy, because put pressure on poor people. It is it's almost like abusing people who are already desperate. Employers themselves are now need to be really educated, so that there should be some morality associated with employment. You Sometimes employers should employ people because people are poor. They cannot afford livelihood. You see, because there's nowhere to run now for the poor people. I mean, if you are a poor person, the government is not keen to pay benefit. It's so difficult now to access benefit. And it is so difficult to access work. And there are things like 0 hour contract or flexible work. Flexible work is being exploited by employers who are actually cruel, and a lot of people in society are getting more and more cruel now because we are actually drifting away from humanity to technocracy. We're behaving more like machine other than like humans. We think about money, we think about wealth more than think about people. An employer cannot employ an employee because the employee is that you can't go to an employer and say, please employ me because I need the money to buy food and to buy medicine, to pay rent. The employer will not recruit you because of that. And everybody who lives in the United Kingdom knows that. Maybe in some parts of Africa, you can go to somebody and say, please give me a job. Because if not, I'm going to die. Because I need some money to buy food. That is still happening in some part of Africa. Because people are still, I'm not trying to be weird. People are in parts of Africa, people, and also around the world. But also if you live in Britain, if you go to countryside, deep into the countryside, people are more humane in the countryside more than in big cities and towns. I don't know what is wrong with big cities. Big cities and towns is worse than a jungle. Because you see, you can die because you don't have access to food in a big city like London or Liverpool or Manchester. This is actually inhuman. We are behaving worse than animals. And with the benefit system, the hospital system, the public sector closing down, people will, where will you go? I mean, the government wants you to pay council tax. If you don't pay council tax, you're going to go to prison. If you tell authority that you are not paying council tax, because if you speak to some people, they are literally going to say, I'm not going to pay rent. Say, why are you not paying rent? I'm not going to pay rent because I don't have the money. But you are going to be evicted from your home. You have to get the money from somewhere. And you can't steal because stealing is illegal. And if you can't get benefit because the government has made it very difficult, almost impossible to access benefit, then people are going to, where will they go? Are they going to go to concentration camp? Are they going to go to public library, to churches? Even churches don't have resources. Public library is closing down, if you don't notice. I mean, people who are setting policies, public libraries are closing down because this is part of the public sector. If public sector is not funded, it closes down. Simple logic. And I watch television, I watch news, I watch whatever. People explaining why there is a cost of living because there is war in Ukraine. That is not true. War in Ukraine is a crisis. It's the same with COVID-19. Some people blame COVID-19. That is not true. Because COVID-19 is a crisis. The role of the government in a country is to address the country's issues in spite of, not because of crisis. And crisis of the cost of living itself is the same crisis like Brexit, like COVID-19 austerity period coming with the credit crunch, which is what was global beginning in America. All these are crises, national crises. You know, wars in Iraq, wars in Afghanistan, wars around the world, in the Middle East, in Ukraine. The government has to take money there. In America, in Europe, everywhere in Africa, the government are there to solve world problems. And for the government to wash its hands and say, no, we are actually becoming a market system, everybody should now begin to look after themselves. which is actually what the government is doing. He may not know what it is doing, but this is exactly what the government is doing. We look at the benefit system. Sanction, for example, should not be there. Bedroom tax should not be there. And benefit cap should not be there at all. I've discussed this in the videos because these are not necessary. And also, the condition of the work program should shut down because this is actually modern day slavery. You unnecessary pressure on people who are so desperate, people who do not even want to claim benefit, people who are so humiliated by benefit. Benefit is a very evil system. It should not even exist. The British people need dignity. They should be working for a living, and but the system does not provide full employment. Everybody knows that. If you learn even only if you learn economic GCSE or even in A level, these are basic concepts. The market system does not provide full employment because the market system, its purpose is not to create jobs, it's to maximize profit. It's a private system, private individual doing their own thing, and you can't blame them because they need to survive in the market. And not everybody can be do business because some people are producers, some people are actually entrepreneurs, some investors, or even vendors, doing small and medium business. And small and medium business is shutting down because of corporatization. Big businesses are now taking over running of the economy because they are efficient. They produce something called efficiency saving, which is a good thing because who wouldn't want to be efficient? But if efficiency means a crisis like the cost of living and crisis like the war in Ukraine pushes prices up, then the logic of efficiency fails in practice. Because the idea of efficiency, of corporatization, is to improve the quality of service, goods and service, and also manage the cost of living, especially the cost of living crisis. But now, big corporation is generating a lot of wealth in a country like the United Kingdom, and actually transferring this wealth in the hand of the few, multimillionaires and multi-billionaires. I've been saying this, and people should start talking about this. This is the truth. And multimillionaires and multi-billionaires may be hypnotized about wealth because they want more. Everybody wants more, even poor people who are actually destitute, want to be rich, but they first want to get out of poverty. Once they are out of poverty, they are going to try their best to become rich. It is human nature. We want more, even if we have more than enough. And what is a multimillionaire, a multi-trillionaire, sooner or later, going to do with his billions, his trillions of money, when there are millions and billions of people in the world dying of poverty? People are in a bad way. And I invite you to talk about this. I will be talking about universal credit, but I cannot help to talk about policy. And also allow viewers to try to understand the politics. And also, most importantly, we need to understand our culture. We need one another. We are our brothers and our sisters keepers. If we don't really go back to basic, to value our life, because nobody is going to value your life for you if you don't value your life, especially if you are a family with kids, with children. Teach your children to respect themselves, to value their lives. Teach them life skill. Make them breakfast, make them lunches. That is okay. But let them learn to make breakfast themselves. People used to actually gather and hunt. Maybe it is about time now for us to negotiate with the government to give us some funding to create community organization, family organization, to learn skill of planting our own fruit and vegetables in our gardens. Allocate some plot of land to the community, to the family, to individuals, so that we grow our own food. We know where our food comes from. Organic food also. If we have to use some chemicals, then we know what chemicals we are using. We know we have that skill. I think if the government really want to free the British people and talk to their friends in Europe and America and in Africa, wherever they are, they can do it. They can do it by resourcing individuals and family and communities to start doing things for themselves. Like I said, learning skills, like be an expert on computer and on cyber security, on media law. Well, you may not be an expert overnight, but start doing something. It doesn't matter how little. Take your time, manage your time, budget your time. Go to the library, even for a cup of coffee, for a breath of fresh air, walk, either sitting in the house, like I sometimes also do because I work from home. And sometimes it's so tempting to, especially now in winter, it's so tempting to be indoors. But every time you go out, you feel life coming to you. It is a holistic way of living. It's a holistic information. This is why I'm actually doing this program, and I'm so happy I'm doing it. I'm also so happy, even if only one person is actually watching the video. I'm so excited because 1+1 is 2. 2+2 is 4. So sooner or later, this message will reach 8 billion people around the world, because you see, 100 million people actually use YouTube every month. That is good, which means potentially a million people, eventually 1 million people in a month will watch, join me on this channel and begin to discuss this issue with me. So this is a good opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and I have been talking about financial support, which is actually income. The reason I'm talking about it because it is income. It's a fundamental part of income in the UK, and it is fundamental because it is because of income and lack of it that we have the cost of living crisis. And there may be other factors, but ultimately these factors have created a situation of low income in the world, not just in the UK, but in Europe, in America, wherever the cost of living crisis impacts people, because they don't have money. If they have it too little, sometimes too late. And if you talk about the United Nations, I don't know what it does. Because you see, a continent like Africa, there shouldn't be famine there. People are suffering in Africa. And literally, people are dying in Africa because of poverty. Malaria, just a slight illness, you are going to die because you are malnourished. And now it is coming back. What the fence in Africa is coming back into developed world, Europe, where it started. Because the IMF and the World Bank is now the main funder of Africa, so they control what happens there. There is something called sanctioning the state. Now, there are some people talking about sanctioning Russia. Don't sanction Russia, because poor people will die in Russia. Some people say, I don't know, if you know about anything about Putin, president of Russia, if you know something about Putin, leave a comment below. Some people say he's one of the richest people on earth. Now, if you sanction Russia, how is that going to help poor people in Russia? Poor people will die in Russia, even in Ukraine. I mean, we are talking about redeveloping Ukraine. How many people have died because of the war? Do we care about people or not? Do we think about politics? Do we think about wealth? All we think about is politics. All we think about is wealth, material things. As if our life is less important than our life is less important than wealth. So this is the kind of thing I've been talking about, and I'm glad I talked about this, because continue watching this video. I'm closing it now, and it was my intention to talk a lot about universal credit, but because I had a gap in the conversation in talking about universal credit, and that's why I keep going back and forth so that people catch an idea of what I'm trying to talk about and continue watching. I'm actually closing this program down, and thank you so much for watching, and continue watching as I conclude this video.